Alright, today is Ampeg Day. I bought this amp a few years ago. I got to play it in the guy's garage before I paid him the cash, but I decided to bring it out into the jam room just to get a basic sound, basic idea of how it sounds now before the service. So pretty cool crunch there. The volume's probably up a fair ways, probably at 12 o'clock, so it's probably at about 5 or 6. Nice place for breakup for sure. The amp will play very nice and clean too. So echo is reverb in their world. That was disengaged with a nice crunch and coming through both speakers. Let's hear it when the echo is engaged, and it only goes to the right side speaker coming out, our right. So actually, I mean, it's the same crunch, it's the same sound, but that is definitely coming out of only one speaker. So disengage the echo. What did we notice? Two things. Echo isn't being introduced at all. The amp sounds the same. But there's a nice idea of the tremolo. Really, really cool. Let's move on, and I'll take a clip of the tremolo intensity pushed up so we can kind of hear it at its best. The tremolo intensity was on 3 before. Now it's on 7, so we should definitely hear it. The other cool thing that is working, and it probably is exactly how it should work, is that when we disengage the echo to get both speakers working, you can now change the speed between speakers of the tremolo. So you can set a fast speed on one speaker and a slow speed on the other, and then adjust to taste, which is pretty awesome. Okay, gives you an idea of Ampeg tremolo. I'll now switch off the echo. So this same, I'm going to set both sides to be the same, 7 intensity tremolo. On, I think the speed is about halfway. You can hear that already. An equal tremolo push through both speakers. Now listen to that interesting weird wobble there. There's some kind of low chase frequency that's coming in behind it that's introduced to these two speakers. It's yeah, it's like a rolling low, and there's also a little spike. If you heard it, there's a spike in a trebly spike before that's in there. So that's how it should be if the amp was balanced. I don't think we would be getting all that rolling thunder. But last clip before we get into it, this is all just to show you how it's sounding now. I don't think that low rolling following thunder is right, and then that spike in between the two while it's being played is not right either. I'm going to put one speaker on slow, so one amp will be a slower speed tremolo, and the other amp side will be a faster speed. The cool thing to note is, I mean, let's get this amp healthy, but that is a really neat thing to mess around with, because it's adding a three-dimensional, well, it's a stereophonic effect to a tremolo, so you're getting the the volume adjusting up and down to speed, but then you're getting two different speeds in your head, and it's very, very funky and psychedelic, if you will. The left side is a speed of 3, intensity of 7. The right side is a stage right, is a in speed of 6.5 or 7 and intensity of 7. And there is also some weird noises that I'm hearing approaching the amp and adjusting it. I'll take you with me to the amp before we get it on the bench. Yeah, so that under thunder is really bizarre, very strange, but yet let me take you with me and towards the amp so you can hear even more bizarre sort of noises, oscillations, bad noise introductions, whatever's going on. And we're going to fix that come hell or high water today, just by bringing the circuit back to its original spec, and let's see what's going on inside. Probably the filter caps and all that stuff have not been changed. I'm hoping, but we'll see. And let's look for signs of modification as well while we're in there. Yeah, I'm just taking you along with me, and hopefully you can hear kind of more noise. I can't hold a guitar or play a guitar and hold the phone at the same time, but check this out. What I did there was I just turned off the the intensity of 1 amp, so now you hear it just at this speed of 6.5, and then we can do the same thing to the other side, just showing you there, that's now turned off. Just a raw amp. So now we can turn on this side, which will just come through one speaker. Okay, and based on that intensity being 9 or 8.5 and very slow, that's not a very powerful tremolo. So I think we've lost some tremolo through that amp, no doubt in my mind, because let's shut that off, come to the other one, intensity, and turn that off and turn that to 3, about same thing, 6.5, 7 intensity. That's also where the rolling thunder, that undertone, low undertone, is coming in too. So there's definitely, I believe there's something to fix on this amp as far as that low oscillation or whatever that is, and then I think there's something to make more potent on this side, and yeah, and that switch, what the hell is that thing supposed to do? Because I don't think it's supposed to switch this side off. How bizarre. How bizarre. So one of the first things to know about Ampeg, vintage Ampegs anyway, is that they use a special screw head called a clutch screw head. So you need a clutch drive screwdriver. I had to go to a specialty tool store, a large specialty tool store, just to even buy them. They're not very common. This is the clutch drive screw head. It's kind of like a figure eight type design, butterfly wing. But there is no doubt in my mind that the last person in here did not take the time or expense to buy this particular screwdriver head, because there's damage to the screws. So, you know, like, take the time, man. If you ruin these screws, which a lot of them, I don't even know how well will fare, because a lot of them are chewed, get the proper tool. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's very common in vintage Ampeg amps to see the screw heads, if not changed, chewed up and damaged, because, you know, these are not easy to find nowadays. Maybe they were very common in the 60s, I don't know, but they're certainly not available at your local Home Depot or common tool store. They're very rare. So just like these amps are getting rare. Okay, enough said. I'm going to find the right size of clutch driver. That's why I bought all four, just in case there'd be different screws on here. And we can take this apart properly with the right tool. And that's just an indicator. That's just one screw. I mean, chewed, screwed, and kablooed. So, you know, don't do that. Protect these screws. They're old. The metal's old. They've been through probably a few wars. You know, just get the right tool for the job so that we can keep these things as beautiful and original as possible, and for the next guy to service it. And then for anyone interested, the right one is the 532 clutch head screwdriver. So we're just taking the back panel off. I got to the bottom side, there was no screws there. So my guess, all bottom screw panels are missing. My guess is, you know, the last amp tech ruined so many of the screws by not having the right tool. He ended up putting it back together best he could with the wrong tool again, and using, you know, the best screws left, and, you know, just threw away. The bottom ones would have been the least important. All right, with all the back panel screws removed that were there, we'll pull this baby off. Once again, just like the Falcon, this is the first time I have ever opened this amp. I couldn't before because I didn't have the right screwdrivers. And so you'll be seeing exactly what I'll be seeing for the first time. And let's have a look. Screws aside here, there's some really nice stuff to be very pleased about. Jensen speakers, you always want to, I mean, a Jensen concert speaker, what a gorgeous thing. That's it shows it's a ceramic. From glance I would have said that is an Alnico, but the back says it's a ceramic magnet, so that's kind of cool. Very deep bell on that thing. And then it's, what the Sam balls is that glob of Stay Puft Marshmallow Man from the end of Ghostbusters? Holy crap. That is what? Oh, that just disgusts me. Come on. Great big globs of greasy, grimy gopher guts. Somebody did replace the cord. There, no doubt about that. I'm certain they did that correctly as well. But yeah, we'll get this thing out and we'll get going. I believe these should be pretty nice tubes. The guy that owned it really wanted to make sure it was. Oh, I see a bunch of orange caps in there. There's nothing wrong with orange caps. These are I'm certain these are the 715P series. Make sure you get the right ones. You know, I have heard them with my own ears with other tone caps, and I have heard many back-to-back comparisons. They are yes, Como. They are a very brighter sounding, but they are, you know, they do have clarity and they're okay. I am going to change them because, you know, I feel Mallory's sound better. They give you a better balanced spectrum, and they're affordable and whatever. And so I'll keep these in my stash for other amps. We have another gluey glob over here. It does remind me of the Falcon in the way the chassis is built. So everything is vertically mounted. It's always neat to see different designers take on how to put it together. You've got your back top knobs and then very much a part of this U chassis that everything is outlined to the back. And I just put the foot switch back. It's got its own little holder there with a spring. There we go, 1964, 18th week on that reverb tank. It was the most expensive amp that they ever produced. It's got just, I mean, it's crazy to put 2 amps. That's 2 sets of transformers for power, 2 sets of output transformers. All the extra expense in that made this thing and it's very well made. I mean, that's a neat Tolex. Thick back panel, the alternating tremolo effect between the 2 amps. Yeah, and raw, I don't know. I just imagine that the cost wasn't as marketable for people. The idea is neat. It's neat to own this amp and play around with its design. But I bet you, in the end, you know, if I was doing shows and going out on the road, I'm going to bring my concert. I think ultimately that's a more flexible amp for different styles. And same with the Super Reverb over this thing, which sort of has a more enclosed variability, less versatility to it. Let's carry on. This is cool. Also note some square drive screws in there. There's a label there, which I can't see while filming, but that's your tube chart. Not sure. I'll look at it when I get a chance. But there's probably a production stamp on there too. Maybe Ampeg had their system of dating. So yeah, let's get this out of there. I'm liking what I see. Cornell. So I'm not sure about those film caps. I'm gonna guess they're of good quality and they probably hold up and are not leaky, but we'll test those. I think those are fresh electrolytics there. Probably cathode bypass caps in the preamp section. 10% tolerance. Cap there, 10%. And then these were all replaced. And you know, I'm guessing those are fresh electrolytics again. So what was done to one side was the other. That's fresh. I would put some shrink tubing on those ends, and see if we can get rid of just anything that doesn't need to be there or looks ugly. That's a soldering gun mishap for sure. I'm also excited to look at these tubes a little closer because they look vintage, especially that one. So I think that'll be really neat. These could be some high value tubes. And yeah, let's get this thing out. Let's get into this thing. I've decided I'll remove the tubes for extra safety, put it on its back, and take those 6 screws out to avoid screwing something up. So I just took the tubes out before laying the amp down on its back, and I'm very happy. These are old Sylvania, made in USA, 7591A output tubes. These are Sovtech. Now, just judging by the logoing and the lettering, these are older, but probably more modern. I mean, within the last 30 years, not the last 60 years. These, I would say, might be original. Made for Ampeg by Sylvania. So, testament to the ones before me who owned this amp. You know, at least someone made sure they bought some quality. I'm sure these were quality Sovtech from years ago, not the modern reproduction ones. And they found some Sylvania USA vintage tubes to put in there to really be a close match to these ones. We'll see how they perform when we get them on the meter. So maybe this is unnecessary or overkill, but it seemed right to me. It seemed at least logical to keep the chassis sort of supported. And now we'll take it out, and you know, with any luck, we're just able to just tilt that cabinet back up to where it belongs, and the amp chassis will stay in put just like it lays now. Yeah, it had retainer nuts, just like Fender used. So I just had to get my fingers under there, hold on to this nut, and then the screw magically started coming upwards, which is great. So that's really what's up here. We just it's the same thing we've seen hundreds of times before, and we'll just get underneath each one of those, get this biting retainer nut out, and then yeah, it should just drop gracefully into my hand. Okay, and if there was ever a reminder to discharge your filter caps, it would definitely be in Ampeg amps, because yeah, you got to reach way under there, you're touching a million hot points to hold on to that retainer screw underneath there, and it is right in the guts of the amp. Let's see it. Yeah, it's way back there. So, hello kids, don't get shocked. Some of the engineers' thinking is that, you know, these are built to last a long time, no doubt about it, and that you really don't want the common person that bought it working on it. You want them to come to you for service. So okay, that one's gone. So you don't really want to make them too easy to get at, hence using these type of screws as well. This clutch drive screw head system, not commonly, oh yeah, it's still got one, not commonly found perhaps even back then. Okay, there we go. And now it just comes out like butter. Of course, we've got to disconnect the speakers. But the worst is over. How did we? Oh, we're hardwired. I see also they've replaced the wiring here. So this is modern wire. It's got the original brown wire, but again, when I was suspecting some kind of mod, they replaced an output transformer. A tone clone. Well, I'm sure that's a decent choice, but it's all sort of starting to tell a tale, isn't it? This is where it gets interesting as far as speaker disconnect. So I've got to check how they wired this up, why there's the original wires in there, or at least some kind of vintage cloth covered thing, so maybe nothing's original there. But essentially, why is there 4 wires instead of 2 going to this speaker? And let's get it on the bench. There's always some little surprise along the way. And there it is up on the chassis stand. I was just kind of debating the best way to put it. It's a long, wide chassis. It's a big, wide amp. So it was pretty much at the max width this thing goes. So I'm going to get my schematic out for this and start tracing where, we'll do it together, where the 2 amps merge. Looks like high-end filter caps. I'm not sure yet what the brand is. I don't know. I just feel like you could spaghetti tube the leads and do things other than, you know, just glob of silicone in there. I thought at first it was hot glue, but it's definitely silicone. And did they use the right type of silicone? You don't want to use the vinegar bathroom type silicone, because that will corrode the metal. The other thing I noticed right away is these 2 amps should be identical. So haven't even looked at the schematic yet, but I will. I need to study it. This is going to be one of the busiest amps I've worked on, mostly because of the wires. The wire leads go kind of everywhere, so it's not as comfortable as chasing like the wires on a Fender, you know, which is quite simply laid out for the most part. Obviously, there was some CBS circuits like the 66 Bassman AB165 where wires were going underneath the fiberboard. But for the most part, I mean, you see that you can trace your wires quite well. So for me, it's really about, I'll see what needs to connect to what component, but I'll need to really look at where the wiring went. So hopefully the color scheme is pretty good to its next point. So it's just, this will be I think this will be the most challenging amp I've worked on. So back to the evenness, we see a 27 ohm here, we see 1000 ohm and a 140 ohm. I'm guessing 140 ohm is like a cathode biasing resistor for one of the output tubes. And then we see some bypass caps there, and then this cap going from the tube likely to ground. So basically amp number 1, perfect clone of amp number 2. Amp number 1 starts here and then ends there at the end of the orange caps. Now amp number 2, an identical amp, starts there, moves its way. So what do we notice right away? There's no 27 ohm resistor at the end. The 1000 begins on the first connecting eyelets of the fiber board, and then that's a 140. Big gap there. Here's our crossing electrolytic cap, but there's no biasing caps. There should be 2 bypass caps for a preamp bias. So that's missing. So that's kind of interesting. And then back to the filter caps. Don't know how old they are. I can test them. I can see what quality they are. I'll start peeling that crap off. But I'm thinking, why not? It's going to be pricey, but why not order, a new replacement can, multi-cap can filter cap section. So I think it's going to be 140 and 220s times 2. And I believe, I've kind of seen, I haven't ordered a can cap yet, but the multi-can cap is probably around 80 to 100 bucks each. So that's not a small investment, but yet it gets rid of that and, makes the amp more original in its design. So that's going to get some space out of the way, which is, free up some space, which is nice. And then I've got to trace, I'll use the schematic now to trace wires out of this echo / reverb switch and just see what's going on where it's cutting out 1 amp and not engaging reverb at all. And we're just studying the circuit as well, just going with the basic stuff. So we see the power come in here, and we see it go through the switch first. Yep, there's the hot through the switch, and that's going to come out to the fuse, and then that will go into the power transformer. And then this extra line here coming out of the fuse is going to go all the way, it's coming out here. This is what I mean about chasing wires. So it's coming out here, it's going along the outside of the amp, and then it's going in here to its grommeted counterpart on the other side, which then goes to the fuse of the individual other amp. Now there's no switch for the other amp. This is how they're ganging them together, and then that's going to go into the power transformer for the other amp and begin its own autonomous. So that's the way they can switch it on, firing both amps up via this line here. And then what I'm just beginning to trace is there is also this shielded gray wire coming out of the grommet. Not sure where it's connected inside, but this will go to the reverb tank on one side. And then we've just got to keep looking here to see how that gets connected to the reverb activation switch and how it is spliced. So I think it's time for the schematic at least to understand the workings of that. This is I'm just going to keep studying, and I can see why they did that. I mean, this is a connection, and they did drill a hole into the side of the chassis to form this little bank for the filter cap replacements. So that wouldn't have been an original hole, or if there was a hole there, great, they used it. But you've got, metal. I still think you could wire it up like that without needing the silicone. You can still do things like, put an electrical tape layer there, use spaghetti tubing right to cover every exposed bare wire hot out of the filter cap. Ground would be no problem. And yeah, so I mean, it can, because this is my amp and investing in this, another $200 in the two can caps. I feel like that's just the nicest way to go. There is shielded wire used all over this amp. Probably because it's busy, tight design, it'd be very, very noisy, but they've got your inputs are using shielded wire, which is, always a good idea. Obviously the reverb tank would use shielded wire. And I'm finding other shielded wire in here. Now, they've kept originality, like this is the original electrolytic. You can see they've disconnected that and just folded the lead and then put in their replacement. Interesting to see a Mallory electrolytic. Didn't know they made electrolytics. But yeah, so that's that. And then, so just to keep the amp, keep original components on display, they've sort of kept the original stuff. I would definitely do that with a can cap. I wouldn't be so concerned as keeping an old electrolytic in there, but it's fine. This is the side, this is the amp where the output transformer blew, and I don't see it's underneath here, so I can't even see a glimpse of it underneath this fiberboard, but it's right underneath these two. I've got my hand on it underneath the chassis, right underneath these two orange caps. I want to focus on the repair first rather than getting some boutique components for it. I got on the internet last night, bound and determined to find some more information on this amp. And what I learned, I always trust Schematic Heaven as a site to have just about every schematic you can want, and that's probably true for Fender. But this is a rare amp. So originally, because Schematic Heaven only had the ET1 and the ET2-B, I was just trying to match up the schematic by the tube complement. And so the ET1 used, the ET1, not the B, used 6V6 output tubes, and by the time of ET1-B, they switched to the 7591 output tubes. The preamps were still 6SL7s. And the other difference, the only other difference between the 1 and the 1B is they used, ET1 used a tube rectifier, and by the time of ET1-B came along, they switched to a diode rectifier. Lo and behold, I found the proper schematic, and now things started making a little bit more sense, because the ET2 series was their higher end line, which had a dimension control for the reverb. And so I kept thinking there was some mod that the person removed the dimension potentiometer and did some stuff. But no, that's not the case. The case is I just had an ET1-B. And then this old, I should also mention the rarity of these amps if you don't already know. They're not too common out there. So, there was a couple forums, like Les Paul forum, and a couple of the Ampeg and Guitar Head forums that talked about finding one and should I buy it, and I don't know anything about them. They don't really come up. I don't see any for sale. And then even YouTube is quite a depository for old amps, and all you'll find is someone playing an Echo Twin or a Super Echo Twin just so you can hear it. But there's absolutely no technical videos on it where you can see the guts and kind of learn how it works. The ET1 was made from 1962 to 1963, and then Ampeg switched to the ET1-B, making those two changes we just noted. And so all I could find is ET1. So this is from 1962 printing, and then I didn't find anything on ET1-B. However, the tone, features, controls are the same, so the design is very much the same, and all that changed is the rectification and the output tubes. So that's great. And what they did say is when used, if desired with reverb, it does say that when you engage the reverb, you will have just one amp, one 15-watt amp. So when used with echo, you operate one of the 15-watt amplifiers, just as we saw at the demo. And when used without echo, you have a full, clean 30 watts of power, the two amps working together. That's exactly what we saw. So big surprise to me, because I felt that was sort of, odd. I kind of, why not give me 30 watts, both amps, all the time? But they didn't, they made it that way. So what I didn't notice is when you engage the echo and you go to 1 amp, your input 1 volume becomes your echo depth. So that becomes the intensity of your reverb. And I hope I didn't play with that or didn't do that. I thought I did, but maybe I wasn't playing at the time and just didn't notice. I guess the great thing to note is that, the tech that did do this work for the guy before me did very much, hopefully, we'll have to check that volume knob, but did make it to spec. So at this point, that's reassuring. I'm going to order the original cans. I was debating if I should just make just put a barrel jack, a female barrel 1/4-inch jack in line. As we saw, these are very old and very corroded, so I'll get out a scratch brush or whatever, and I'll get some cleaner and really get those contacts good on the tank and on these connectors, and then we'll check with the volume. And if volume 1 with echo engaged brings the reverb intensity up, then we know that everything is working as it should. This is a neat project. As I said, this is probably the most complicated project I've done. By the end of this amp, I'll have gained some new wisdom and some new skills and some new understanding of different ways than Leo to wire up and design a circuit. So I'm going to put this away, wait for these parts to come in. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching me stumble through this so far.